به نام ایران و به نام آزادی و به نام انقلاب دموکراتیک مردم ایران و به نام پایداری اشرفی ها و اشرف نشانه ها که نوید بخش فتح و آزادی اند. واقعه مهم اخیر حکم دادگاه تجدید نظر واشنگتن علیه برچسب غیرقانونی در مورد مجاهدین یکی از وقایع مهم این دوران بود. این واقعه یک دستاورد بزرگ تاریخی در نبرد مقاومت مردم ایران علیه رژیم آخوندی است. دادگاه بطلان برچسب نامشروع را محرز شناخت و حکم داد که اگر وزارت خارجه تصمیم نگیرد خود رأساً نامگذاری را لغو خواهد کرد. این است صدای در هم شکستن زنجیرها. این است صدای در هم شکستن زنجیرها، فرو ریختن تاریکخانه های شیطانسازی و شکست تماشایی رژیم ولایت فقیه. با این نامگذاری میخواستند حق ملت ایران را برای تغییر رژیم آخوندی انکار کنند. اما مقاومت شما با سربلندی تمام این حق را به کرسی نشاند. گفته بودم که حقوق ملت ایران را حتی اگر در کام اژدها هم پنهان کنید آن را بیرون خواهیم کشید. در فرهنگ مغرب زمین این گفته مشهوری است که قوانین تورات دست آدمی را از ارتکاب خطا می‌بندد و قوانین انجیل فکر و نیت او را. حال این چه دین و آیینی است که بر این گونه وزارتخانه‌ها حاکم است که هم دستشان و هم فکر و نیتشان را برای قانون شکنی و توسل به جعل و افترا باز می‌بینند. من البته امیدوارم که وزیر امور خارجه آمریکا خانم هیلاری کلینتون این صفحه پر از ظلم و جور و جفاکاری را از تاریخ سیاست آمریکا ورق بزند و شخصاً بر این نامگذاری غیرقانونی نقطه پایان بگذارد. همه می‌دانید که در یک سال گذشته طرح انحلال و انهدام سازمان مجاهدین در میان بود. ضرب العجلی برای یک سره کردن کار اشرفی‌ها و قرارداد 7 ماده‌ای آخوندها با دولت عراق برای تسلیم یا نابودی این جنبش. در ماه‌های اخیر مجاهدان آزادی برای خنثی کردن توطئه‌های رژیم ولایت فقیه و دولت مطیعش در بغداد در چارچوب یک راه حل بین‌المللی جابجایی از شهر اشرف را پذیرفتند. با این همه آنچه قرار بود یک جابجایی داوطلبانه باشد بر اثر توطئه‌های فاشیسم دینی، بر اثر نقض عهد مکرر دولت عراق و انفعال ملل متحد و ایالات متحده صورت یک جابجایی اجباری به خود گرفت. یک جابجایی که جز به جز آن تحمیلی است و یادداشت تفاهمش فاقد خواسته های اشرفی هاست. اگرچه مفاد همین یادداشت هم اجرا نشده و در عمل طرح به زندان فرستادن اشرفی هاست. ساکنان اشرف نیز در 4 ماه می اعلام کردند تا وقتی زیر پا گذاشتن ابتدایی ترین حقوقشان ادامه دارد دیگر به لیبرتی نخواهند رفت. این خواستا این خواست‌ها که در 6 ماده تنظیم و برای دبیر کل و ملل متحد و دولت آمریکا ارسال شده بسیار ساده است. آنها میگویند به جای زندان کردن لیبرتی آنجا را کمپ پناهندگی اعلام کنید. آب و برق و نیازهای انسانی آن را تامین کنید. دشمن ما را که در صدد نابودی این جنبش است در امور ما دخالت ندهید و اشرف را که مدعی هستید هنوز به طور کامل خلع سلاح نشده بازرسی کنید یا لااقل 2 خط در تکذیب آن اعلام کنید، در تکذیب آنچه که ادعا کردید. کسانی که این درخواست‌ها را زیاده خواهی ساکنان اشرف توصیف می‌کنند توضیح بدهند که از چه زمانی حفاظت از جان و امنیت افراد در زمره امتیازهای اضافی شمرده می‌شود؟ به شما می‌گویند حق ندارید برای رفع اتهام از خود خواستار بازرسی از اشرف شوید، ولی به جای آن باید به زندان بروید و تازه آن را به عنوان یک راه حل انسانی هم به رسمیت بشناسید. و اگر با زندان رفتن مخالفید، نامگذاری غیرقانونی ادامه پیدا می‌کند. اما بگذارید تصریح کنم که اگر فکر می‌کنید با این فشارها مجاهدین از حقوقشان و حقوق و آزادی مردمشان کوتاه می‌آیند، سخت در اشتباهید.
I have said over and over again, the Iraqis have created this problem. There never was a reason for the Ashrafis to leave Camp Ashraf. If they wanted to have the Ashrafis leave the country to emigrate to other lands, it could have been done in Ashraf. And had it been done in Ashraf, my guess is the immigration process would have been months ahead of where it is today. And yet, for whatever reason, the Iraqi government insisted that we leave Ashraf. And we promised, the US and the UN promised that this would be done in a fair and expeditious way. And the residents of Ashraf cooperated. Convoy after convoy after convoy went, even though the Iraqi government failed to live up to any of its promises. You know, you've heard. And over again, the Iraqi government has prohibited the residents of Ashraf as they move to liberty from having basic humanitarian things. The residents have their own air conditioners. The Iraqis won't let them move them. The residents have their own generators. The Iraqis won't let them move them into liberty. The residents offered at their own expense to hook up Liberty's water to the city of Baghdad's water system. The Iraqis won't let them. The residents want to build shade and put shade trees in. The Iraqis won't let them. Why? Does it violate some strategic or military objective of the government of Iraq? No. The Iraqi government is doing it to be cruel, to be mean, to set up an emotional atmosphere that will drive the good residents of Ashraf to do some things that they may not want to do. We have got to stand with Ashraf. The Ashrafis in Liberty and in Ashraf have to know that we are with them, have to know that they've got your support, but have to know that they've got our support. I am ashamed of my government. My government has failed to protect the residents of Ashraf.
The United States Department of State to think about what it's saying when they say the MEK should remain on the terrorist list. I would invite the Department of State to listen to the next speaker.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you. Others have already spoken, and they will speak about the treatment of the people in Camp Ashraf, the danger that they face in this move to what really so far is a prison or concentration camp, not a relocation camp, the dangers of more violence, the dangers of the Maliki regime trying to carry out the will of the Iranian mullahs. But I want to speak about just one topic today. Just one. It's about time that the United States of America, the European Union, all the countries of the world stand together with one very, very powerful voice and one very powerful argument: regime change in Iran. When they tell me, when your enemies say this is a cult, these are people who are terrorists, these are people who don't stand for human rights, these are people who are not diverse, I wish the cameras, instead of being on me, would be on you. Look at all of you, men, women, young, old, religious, secular. This is diversity. I know terrorism firsthand. You are not terrorists. In fact, you're the answer to terrorism. You're the answer to terrorism. It's time for all of us to stand up. In the United States, in Europe, in Asia, in the United Nations, in South America, to stand up and say, let's delist the MEK now. So you can fight for freedom. So you can fight for freedom for your people, so we can join you. And let's say to the people in Ashraf and in the other camp who are listening to us, you're not alone, you're not forgotten, you will never be alone or forgotten. Anything and everything that happens to you, we will know, we will stand with you, we will protect you, and we look forward to a time when you are free and we can all join you in Iran with freedom and democracy and the rule of law. Thank you.
And we are here to tell UNHCR, to tell UNAMI, and yes, to tell the United States government that we do not mean to allow those goals to be unfulfilled. We are here to tell them that failure is not an option. At the very time that 2,000 residents were moving from Camp Ashraf to the very difficult conditions in Camp Liberty near Baghdad, where they can be interviewed by U.S. representatives and their refugee status determined. At that very time, a court in Washington, D.C. handed down a decision that we think was highly favorable to MEK. In that decision, the court told the State Department of the United States that it must make a decision by October 1, as to whether it will remove MEK from the list of foreign terrorist organizations, a list it never should have been on in the first place. I'm also here to tell you that those people, we, who stood up for you in the past and stood up for the residents in the past, will not relent. We will not relent until what should happen does happen. Even in the setting of U.S.-Iran relations, this is the right moment. Some have speculated in the past that one reason the United States was delaying taking MEK off the list was fear that it would damage the possibility of reaching an accommodation with Iran over its nuclear program. Well, as you've heard and as you all know, even that ridiculous charade of talks with Iran has now collapsed. I thank you for your courage and your dedication, and the courage and dedication of Mrs. Rajavi and the entire leadership of MEK, and for being an example to all of us and to all the world, never to give up the struggle for freedom. Thank you very much.
the very great honour to introduce a highly distinguished group of senior United States military commanders. Gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you, and good evening, fellow patriots. The people at Camp Ashraf were the ground troops. They were the people who shed their blood, showed the dedication and the aggressiveness to make it work. You people are the archers. You have fired at targets from long range. It has been effective, and you have continued to bring pressure to bear. We speakers and our counterparts in Europe are the light cavalry, in some cases maybe heavy cavalry. A lot of flash, a lot of movement around the battlefield, but perhaps not as much impact as we might like. But key to it all is that Madame vis-à-vis and her organization has been the command and control. And I can tell you, the orchestration of all of those have been nothing less than masterful. And that's important because there's still work to do. Ladies and gentlemen, I pray for you that in the coming months and years that we were able to see or hear or read about that seminal event on the streets of Tehran.
All right, Madam Rojava, distinguished guests, supporters of a free democratic Iran, my name is David Phillips, and along with my wife Dawn and daughter Sarah, we're honored to be here with you today. I am one of the few people that can say I not only lived at Camp Ashraf for over a year, I also lived at Camp Liberty for over a year. But when I was there, we had running water, we had recreation facilities, we had shade, we also had freedom of movement. Unfortunately, that's not the case now. What part of protected person isn't understood? It sure is quite clear to me because the card, the protected person identity card that's carried by the 3,400 people at Camp Ashraf and Camp Liberty, it spells it out. And in 2004, before anyone was issued those cards, one was issued to me. This is the first time I've publicly shown I have card number 0 with my name and face on it so that I would never forget the promise we made to the other 3,400 people who received these cards after me. A short time ago, I sat in a courtroom and had to restrain myself as I heard my soldiers and myself denigrated by an attorney who said we didn't do our job at Camp Ashraf. And I listened as he said, the soldiers there never fully inspected. They never found any of the weapons that were there, and they were denied access to certain areas. Well, let me tell you, it was my responsibility to conduct those searches. And I used this very map to ensure that every square meter of Camp Ashraf was inspected. And one day, if someone claims they show up at Ashraf and they found weapons, my response is, yeah, when did you hide them there? Thank you.
Madam Rajavi, ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and sisters in Ashraf, we come together again in our quest for freedom and justice. What is happening at Liberty in Ashraf is not freedom and justice. What is happening in Iran is not freedom and justice. It is terrorism being executed by the governments of Iraq and Iran. Yet the PMOI is still being labeled as a terrorist by the US government. as the first anti-terrorism officer for all coalition forces in Iraq, and later as the base commander of Camp Ashraf, I assure everyone the PMOI is not a terrorist organization. For me, they remain among the best allies every American warrior that ever served at Camp Ashraf ever had. I was honored to have the former National Liberation Army on my flank and I on theirs. I knew if we had encountered an ambush and attack like was seen in 2009, 2011 on Camp Ashraf, and my soldiers and Marines were fallen, the members of the former NLA would have rushed to our rescue as quick as they ran to their comrades.
Miriam Rajavi and friends, let us stand and honor the brave souls that live in Ashraf today and are defending your right of freedom. We must defend the residents of Ashraf and Liberty. We must defend what is right. We must defend freedom. We must take the MEC off the terrorist list. And yes, we must hold Iraq responsible for what they have done. Bless the people of Ashraf and Liberty. Pray for their freedom. The world must protect the people of Ashraf and Liberty.